A girl screamed into the darkness. But no one heard her. No one except the woman who had just locked her inside. The metal gate clanged shut with a sound like thunder, and Amara's stepmother smiled, a smile sharp as broken glass. "Let the spirits take you," she hissed. "My daughter will shine alone." But why? What had this innocent girl done to deserve such hatred? Hello, my beautiful family. Welcome back to Iroko Stories. If this is your first time here, you're about to experience something powerful. Before we begin, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button right now, smash that like, and share this video with someone who needs to hear a story of hope today. Trust me, you'll want to share this one. And turn on those post notifications, because you don't want to miss what's coming next week. Now, settle in. Get comfortable. Because what I'm about to tell you will make you laugh, cry, and believe in destiny all over again. Many years ago, in the village of Abodo, where the rivers sang ancient songs and the wind carried the voices of ancestors, there lived a man known throughout 7 kingdoms. His name was Okonkwo, the master drummer. When his hands touched the talking drum, even the trees would lean closer to listen. Even the birds would quiet their songs. On the night his first daughter was born, something extraordinary happened. The moment the baby girl took her first breath, every drum in the village began to beat on its own. No hands touched them. No wind moved them. Yet they thundered through the night, announcing the arrival of someone special. The elders gathered, their faces grave with wonder. This child, the oldest among them declared, carries destiny in her veins. She will bring great honor to this land. But he paused, and everyone leaned forward. But her path will be tested by fire and tears before she reaches her throne. That child was Amara. And she grew like a palm tree, graceful, strong, rooted deep in kindness. Her mother, Obiajili, cherished her like the morning sun cherishes the earth. She taught Amara the old songs, the healing herbs, the way to walk with dignity even when the path is rough. But happiness, my friends, sometimes comes with an expiration date that we cannot see. When Amara turned 10, fever swept through the village like a thief in the night. It took the weak, the old, and the unlucky. And among the unlucky was Obiajili, Amara's mother, her protector, her light. The night her mother died, Amara stood by the bedside, tears streaming like rivers down her cheeks. Obiajili reached up with trembling fingers and touched her daughter's face. "My precious one," she whispered, her voice fading like smoke, "remember this, your voice is your power. When all else fails, sing. The ancestors will hear you. I will hear you." And then she was gone. The funeral lasted 7 days. The whole village mourned. But none mourned like Amara, who felt as though half her soul had been buried in that red earth. Now, here's where the story takes a turn. Because grief, my family, makes us vulnerable. And where there is vulnerability, opportunists gather like vultures. 6 months after Obiajili's death, Okonkwo brought home a new wife. Her name was Adaeze, and she came with a daughter of her own, Ngozi, a girl the same age as Amara but different in every way that mattered. At first, Adaeze smiled sweetly. She cooked Okonkwo's favorite meals. She spoke softly. She even pretended to care for Amara, brushing her hair, asking about her day. But Amara felt something cold beneath those gestures, something that made her skin prickle like the air before a storm. Ngozi, on the other hand, didn't bother to pretend. She looked at Amara with eyes full of jealousy from day one. Because everyone in the village loved Amara. When she walked to the market, people greeted her warmly. When she helped at the village square, children gathered around her. And worst of all, when she sang, when she sang, the whole world stopped to listen. You see, Amara had inherited her father's gift. But while Okonkwo's hands spoke through drums, Amara's soul spoke through song. Her voice could make a barren woman weep with hope. Her melodies could soothe angry chief. She didn't just sing, she painted emotions in the air, made them tangible, real. And this gift, became the seed of Adaeze's hatred. 2 years passed. Amara turned 12, then 13, then 14. And with each year, the mask on Adaeze's face cracked a little more. The kind words became sharp. The gentle touches became rough shoves when Okonkwo wasn't looking. The equal treatment became cruel division. While Ngozi slept on a soft mat with 3 wrappers, Amara was given a thin cloth and a corner near the cooking area. While Ngozi ate the best parts of the chicken, Amara received bones and scraps. While Ngozi oiled her skin with shea butter perfumed with flowers, Amara's skin cracked from washing clothes in the cold stream before dawn. But Amara never complained. She remembered her mother's words, "Dignity is not given, my child. It is carried within, no matter what storms rage outside." And so she carried it. She smiled at the other girls even when her stomach growled. She sang even when her heart ached. She helped even when her body screamed for rest. Then came the announcement that would change everything. One morning, as the sun painted the sky in shades of orange and gold, the town crier's voice boomed through Abodo, "Hear ye, hear ye. The king has declared a grand festival. In 3 months' time, on the first full moon of the planting season, there will be a singing competition. The winner will be crowned the voice of the kingdom and will marry the crown prince himself." The village exploded with excitement. Girls squealed. Mothers began planning. Fathers calculated bride prices in their heads. But no one was more excited than Adaeze. She grabbed Ngozi's shoulders, her eyes blazing with ambition. "This is it," she hissed. "This is your chance. You will win that competition. You will marry the prince. Our family will rise from dust to royalty." There was just one problem. Ngozi couldn't sing. I mean, she really couldn't sing. When she opened her mouth, it sounded like a goat in labor, a sound that made dogs howl and children run away covering their ears. But Adaeze was determined. She hired every vocal teacher within 20 miles. She bought honey for Ngozi's throat, herbs for her voice, charms from medicine men who promised miracles. Day after day, Ngozi practiced, screeching notes that frightened chickens and made the neighbors complain. And every evening, Adaeze looked at Amara with eyes full of poison. Because while Ngozi struggled to hit a single note correctly, Amara's voice floated through the compound like a blessing, effortless, pure, divine. One night, as Amara sang while washing dishes, her voice drifting through the evening air, Adaeze made her decision. She called Ngozi into her room and shut the door. "Mother, I cannot do it," Ngozi wept, her voice hoarse from failed practice. "No matter how hard I try, I sound like..." "I know," Adaeze cut her off, her voice cold as a snake's belly. "That's why Amara must not compete." Ngozi's eyes widened. "But mother, everyone expects her to enter. Father will insist on it. She's known throughout 3 villages for her singing." Adaeze smiled, and it was the smile of a woman who had crossed a line in her soul, a line that separated the living from the damned. "Then we must make sure she disappears before the competition." The room fell silent. Even the crickets outside seemed to hold their breath. "Mother, what are you saying?" Ngozi whispered, fear creeping into her voice. "I'm saying," Adaeze leaned forward, her eyes glittering in the lamplight, "that sometimes, to secure our destiny, we must remove obstacles. Permanently. Now, I want you to pause and think about this for a moment. Have you ever been in a situation where someone's jealousy made them dangerous? Have you ever felt the weight of someone's envy pressing on your life? Drop a comment below if you've experienced this. Because what happens next will shock you." The next morning, Adaeze woke Amara before the sun rose. "Child," she said, her voice dripping with false sweetness, "today you will help me gather herbs in the sacred forest. It's for your father's health. He's been complaining of chest pains." Amara's heart clenched with worry. "Father is ill." "Nothing serious," Adaeze waved her hand dismissively, "but we must prevent it from becoming serious. The herbs we need only grow deep in the forest, near the Cave of Echoes. You know the place?" Amara nodded slowly. Everyone knew the Cave of Echoes. It was a place where sound behaved strangely, where voices bounced and multiplied, where it was said the boundary between the living world and the spirit world was thin as spider silk. People avoided it, especially after dark. "Good," Adaeze smiled. "We leave now. Bring a large basket." They walked in silence, Adaeze leading, Amara following. The forest grew denser with each step. Vines hung like ropes. The canopy above blocked out most of the light, leaving them in a green twilight that felt ancient and watchful. Finally, they reached the Cave of Echoes. It stood like a mouth in the hillside, dark, foreboding, breathing out cold air that smelled of earth and time. "The herbs are just inside," Adaeze said, gesturing toward the entrance. "Go, child. Gather them quickly. I'll wait here and keep watch for wild animals." Amara hesitated. Something in her spirit whispered danger. The same intuition that had warned her about Adaeze from the beginning now screamed in alarm. But she thought of her father, possibly ill, possibly dying like her mother had. She stepped into the cave. The darkness swallowed her like a living thing. She moved slowly, hands stretched forward, feeling her way deeper into the belly of the earth. "I don't see any herbs," she called out, her voice echoing strangely. "I don't see. The cave threw her words back at her, multiplied, distorted. Behind her, light from the entrance suddenly disappeared. Clang! The sound of metal hitting stone. She spun around, heart hammering. "Stepmother," she called. "Stepmother." Laughter answered her. Cold, triumphant laughter that echoed through the cavern like a demon's chorus. "You're too trusting, child. Too kind. Too good. And that is your weakness." Amara ran toward the entrance, but her hands met solid metal, a gate that hadn't been there before. She pushed, pulled, rattled it desperately. It didn't budge. "Let me out," she screamed. "Please. What have I done to you? What have you done?" Adaeze's voice dripped with venom. "You exist. You outshine my daughter in everything. Your voice makes her sound like a dying rat. Your beauty makes her look plain. Your kindness makes her seem cruel. While you live, she will always be second. But not anymore. The spirits that dwell in this cave are hungry. Let them feast on you. By the time the festival comes, you'll be nothing but bones and echoes. My father will search for me." "Your father," Adaeze laughed bitterly, we'll be told you ran away with a traveling merchant. I cried the most convincing tears. And by the time anyone thinks to search this cave, it will be too late. Goodbye, Amara. My daughter sends her regards. Footsteps retreated. Leaves rustled. And then, silence. Amara sank to the ground, her whole body shaking. The darkness pressed against her like a physical weight. She had heard the stories about this cave, people who entered and never came out. Spirits that fed on fear and despair. Echoes that drove people mad by repeating their own screams until they couldn't remember which voice was theirs. Tears streamed down her face. "Mama," she whispered into the darkness. "Mama, I need you." And then, she remembered. Her mother's last words, "When all else fails, sing. The ancestors will hear you. I will hear you." With trembling lips, Amara began to hum. Her voice cracked with fear at first, barely audible. But slowly, she found her strength. The melody grew, filling the cave, pushing back against the darkness. And something miraculous happened. The cave began to glow. Faint at first, like starlight through clouds. Then brighter, pulsing in rhythm with her song. The walls themselves seemed to breathe, to listen, to respond. Amara sang louder, pouring her fear, her pain, her hope into the melody. She sang of her mother's love. She sang of her father's drums. She sang of morning light and children's laughter and everything good she'd ever known. The glow intensified. And in that light, figures began to appear. Translucent, shimmering, beautiful. Spirits. But not the hungry, malevolent ones Adaeze had spoken of. These were the ancestors, the protectors, the ones who watched over those with pure hearts. And at the front of them all, radiant as the sun, stood her mother. "Mama," Amara sobbed, reaching forward. Obiageli smiled, her form flickering like candle flame. "My precious daughter. Did you think death could separate us? Did you think I would abandon you? I'm trapped. I'm going to die here." "No," her mother's voice resonated with power that made the cave walls vibrate. "You are not trapped. You are being forged. Like gold in fire, like diamonds under pressure. Your stepmother meant this for evil, but destiny will turn it to glory." The other spirits moved closer, forming a circle around Amara. They hummed in harmony with her song, and the sound was like nothing human. It was the music of the universe itself, ancient and new, sad and joyful all at once. Her mother raised her hands, and light poured from her palms. "The competition is in 2 days. You will be there. But first, you must learn the Song of Truth." The Song of Truth. A melody so pure, so powerful, that it reveals the heart of whoever hears it. Lies cannot stand in its presence. Masks fall away. The wicked are exposed. And the righteous are elevated. This is what you will sing at the festival. For the next 2 days, though Amara lost all sense of time in that glowing cave, her mother taught her. Note by note, word by word, feeling by feeling. Amara's voice transformed, gaining layers she never knew existed. It became an instrument of the divine, a channel for truth itself. When the lesson finally ended, her mother embraced her, and though the spirit had no solid form, Amara felt surrounded by love so intense it brought fresh tears. "Now," Obiageli whispered, "close your eyes." Amara obeyed. She felt wind rushing around her, heard a sound like giant wings beating, sensed movement though her feet never left the ground. When she opened her eyes, she stood outside the cave. The metal gate hung open, twisted as if by invisible hands. The forest morning was bright and alive with birdsong. But something had changed. Amara looked down at herself and gasped. Her old, worn wrapper had transformed into cloth that seemed woven from moonlight and water. It shifted colors as she moved, silver to blue to purple to green. Her skin glowed with an inner radiance. When she touched her hair, she felt flowers growing in it, real flowers that released a perfume like heaven itself. Mama's final gift, she whispered, understanding. She began walking. Not toward home, there was no home for her there anymore. Instead, her feet carried her toward the village square, toward the palace grounds where even now, preparations were underway for the greatest festival Abodo had ever seen. Meanwhile, at the palace, chaos reigned. Girls from every corner of the kingdom had arrived, each hoping to win the prince's hand. They preened and practiced, compared jewelry and criticized rivals. The noise was deafening, a cacophony of ambition and desperation. In the midst of it all stood Prince Chibis, tall and handsome, yes, but more than that, thoughtful, with eyes that seemed to see deeper than surface beauty. He'd watched dozens of girls perform already in the preliminary rounds, and each one left him cold. Beautiful voices, certainly, but empty. Like decorated calabashes with nothing inside. Is this all there is? He asked his father, the king, frustration clear in his voice. Beautiful shells with nothing in them. The king stroked his beard thoughtfully. Patience, my son. The final competition is tomorrow. Perhaps the one you seek will reveal herself then. At Okonkwo's compound, Adaeze dressed Ngozi in the finest clothes she could buy, borrow, or steal. She painted her daughter's face with expensive powders. She hung jewelry on her until the poor girl could barely move. Remember, Adaeze instructed for the 100th time, smile constantly. Even if you forget the words, smile. Confidence is half the battle. Okonkwo watched this preparation with growing unease. Where is Amara? He asked, noticing his daughter's absence for the first time in days. He'd been so busy with his drums, preparing for the festival performances, that he hadn't paid attention. Adaeze's face remained smooth as a liar's stone. Oh, didn't I tell you? She ran off with that traveling merchant, the one who sold copper pots last market day. Young love, you know how it is. She left a note. She produced a crumpled paper with crude writing. Okonkwo's face crumpled as he read it. But she wouldn't, my daughter wouldn't abandon. Girls do foolish things, Adaeze said, placing a sympathetic hand on his shoulder. Especially girls who think they're in love. Don't worry, she'll come back when reality hits her. Until then, you still have Ngozi to be proud of. But doubt gnawed at Okonkwo's heart. His daughter, abandoning him. The girl who sang at her mother's grave every week. Something felt wrong, terribly wrong. The day of the festival dawned bright and merciless. The sun blazed like it wanted a front row seat to the drama about to unfold. By midday, thousands had gathered at the palace grounds. Every family in the kingdom seemed to be there, along with visitors from neighboring lands. The competition began. One by one, girls took the stage that had been erected in the center of the grounds. Some were good, drawing appreciative applause. Others were mediocre, receiving polite clapping. A few were disasters that made people wince and whisper. Then came Ngozi. She walked to the stage, stumbling once on her elaborate wrapper. The crowd fell silent, watching. She opened her mouth. What came out was, Well, imagine a cat fighting a goat while both fell down a well. It was that kind of sound. Notes crashed into each other like confused birds. The melody, if it could be called that, wandered aimlessly like a drunk person looking for home. People tried to be polite at first. Then came the coughs, the shuffling feet, the barely suppressed laughter. By the time Ngozi finished, even Adaeze had her head in her hands. The prince didn't even comment. He simply waved his hand dismissively, and Ngozi was escorted off the stage, tears streaming down her painted face. "Is there no one else?" the prince asked, his voice heavy with disappointment. "Is this all the kingdom has to offer?" The master of ceremonies consulted his list. "That was the final contestant, Your Highness. It seems." "Wait." The voice rang out clear as a bell across the grounds. Everyone turned. From the back of the crowd, a figure emerged. She moved like water flowing, her moonlight wrapper catching every eye. Flowers bloomed in her hair with each step. Her skin radiated light that seemed to come from within. The crowd parted instinctively, people stepping back in awe. Whispers spread like wildfire. "Who is she? Have you ever seen such beauty? She glows like a spirit." Adaeze's blood turned to ice in her veins. She grabbed Okonkwo's arm with fingers like claws. "It cannot be," she whispered, her face draining of color. "I locked her in the cave. The spirits should have taken her." Okonkwo stared, his mouth falling open. "Amara," he breathed. "My daughter." Amara climbed onto the stage with grace that seemed otherworldly. She didn't look at the crowd. Her eyes found her father, and for a moment, she smiled, a smile of forgiveness, of sorrow, of love that transcends betrayal. Then she looked at the prince. Their eyes met, and something passed between them. Recognition, though they'd never met. Connection, deeper than logic or reason. "What is your name?" the prince asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Amara, Your Highness. Daughter of Okonkwo the drummer. And I've come to sing the song of truth." The prince gestured for her to begin. The crowd held its collective breath. Amara closed her eyes. She thought of her mother's love. She thought of betrayal and survival. She thought of 2 days in darkness and the light that found her anyway. She opened her mouth. And the world changed. The song of truth poured out of her like liquid gold, like sunlight made audible, like every good thing ever felt by any human heart. It wasn't just sound, it was experience. People in the crowd felt their own truth rising to the surface. Liars felt uncomfortable. The guilty squirmed. But the righteous wept with joy, feeling their goodness reflected back at them. The prince stood, tears streaming down his face, all pretense of royal composure abandoned. This was what he'd been waiting for. Not just a beautiful voice, but a beautiful soul made audible. Amara sang of light piercing darkness. She sang of truth that cannot be buried. She sang of destiny that bends but never breaks. And with each note, her stepmother shrank smaller, the weight of her crimes pressing down on her like a physical force. When the last note faded, silence reigned. Not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of sacredness, of moments too profound for immediate reaction. Then the prince moved. He descended from his throne, walked across the stage, and knelt before Amara. The crowd gasped, a prince kneeling. "I have found her," he said, his voice breaking with emotion. "The one my soul has been searching for. Will you accept this crown? Will you stand beside me?" Will you fill our kingdom with the truth that flows from your spirit? Before Amara could answer, a scream tore through the sacred moment. No. Adaeze pushed through the crowd, her face twisted with rage and desperation. She's a witch. She used dark magic. I am her mother, I know. You are not my mother, Amara's voice cut through the accusation like a knife through cloth. And you are right that magic was used. But not by me. She turned to address the crowd, her voice clear and strong. This woman locked me in the cave of echoes 2 days ago, hoping the spirits would kill me. She left me there to die so her daughter could win this competition. My crime? Having a voice that threatened her ambitions. Gasps erupted. People turned to stare at Adaeze with horror. Lies. Adaeze shrieked, but her voice had lost its power. The song of truth still hung in the air, and lies sounded hollow in its wake. Okonkwo pushed forward, his face carved from stone. Is this true? He asked his wife, his voice deadly quiet. Adaeze's mouth opened and closed like a fish drowning in air. Ngozi, standing beside her mother, suddenly sobbed, "It's true, Father Okonkwo. It's true. I heard her planning it. I tried to stop her, but she collapsed, weeping genuine tears of shame and relief." The king stood, his voice booming across the grounds. "Adaeze, wife of Okonkwo, you have committed attempted murder against an innocent child. The penalty for this crime is banishment from all 7 kingdoms. You will be stripped of all possessions and escorted to the boundary before sunset. If you ever return, you will face execution." Adaeze fell to her knees, not in remorse, but in the shock of consequences finally arriving. Guards came forward to take her away. As they led her past Amara, she hissed one final time, "You think you've won." "You think?" "I think," Amara said softly, "that I've survived. And that's not winning, that's grace. I pray you find peace, stepmother, before bitterness consumes what's left of your soul." The compassion in those words broke something in Adaeze. She sagged between the guards, suddenly looking ancient and small. Ngozi approached Amara hesitantly, her elaborate clothes seeming ridiculous now. "Sister," she whispered, "I'm so sorry. I should have stopped her. I should have." Amara embraced her. "You were afraid. I understand fear. But you spoke truth today when it mattered. That takes courage." The prince watched this exchange with eyes full of wonder. Here was a girl who'd been left to die, who'd survived the impossible, who'd been vindicated before thousands, and her first instinct was mercy. "I ask again," he said, taking her hand, "will you be my queen?" Amara looked at this prince, this kingdom, this destiny that had haunted her through darkness and brought her into light. She looked at her father, weeping with relief and shame. She looked up at the sky where she knew her mother watched. "Yes," she said simply. "Yes, I will." The crowd erupted. Drums thundered, and Okonkwo's drums were loudest of all, speaking words of pride and redemption. Dancers whirled. Children laughed. And somewhere in the spirit world, a mother smiled. The wedding took place 1 month later, on the night of the full moon. It was a celebration that would be remembered for generations. But the story doesn't end there, my family. Because life never stops at happily ever after. Life continues, and so does purpose. Queen Amara used her voice not just to entertain, but to heal. She sang over the sick, and they recovered. She sang in times of drought, and rains came. She sang during conflicts, and enemies found common ground. Her truth-telling became legendary, and people traveled from distant lands just to hear her wisdom. She and the prince had 7 children, each one inheriting some aspect of her gift. The kingdom prospered beyond measure. And when the time came for Amara's own daughter to lead, the lesson had been learned: true power comes not from crushing others, but from lifting them up. As for Adaeze, she wandered from village to village, growing old alone, the weight of her choices aging her faster than years ever could. Some say she found peace eventually, in a small hut by the sea where she helped fishermen mend their nets. Others say she died bitter and alone. The truth is known only to the ancestors. Okonkwo lived to old age, his grandchildren gathered around his knees as he played his drums and told stories. He never remarried. Some mistakes, he said, teach us to cherish what we had and be more careful with what we're given next. And the Cave of Echoes. It was transformed into a sacred site, a place where those in darkness could come to find light. Because even the places meant for our destruction can become monuments to our survival. Now, my beautiful family, I want you to understand something. This story is not just entertainment. This is a mirror. Look into it and ask yourself, am I Amara, holding on to kindness even when the world is cruel? Am I Adaeze, letting envy poison my soul? Am I Ngozi, too afraid to speak up against wrong? Or am I Okonkwo, too busy with my own concerns to notice the suffering in my own house? The truth is, we are all of them at different moments. We all face the choice between light and darkness, between truth and comfortable lies, between lifting others up and pushing them down to elevate ourselves. Amara's greatest strength wasn't her voice, it was her refusal to become bitter. When she had every right to hate, she chose understanding. When she had the power to punish, she offered mercy. That, my family, is the real magic. So here's what I want you to take away from this story: your gift will make room for you. Your enemies may lock you in caves, but if destiny has marked you, even caves become classrooms. Darkness is not your end, it's your beginning. The deeper you're pushed down, the higher you rise. If you're going through something right now, if someone is trying to dim your light out of jealousy, if you feel trapped in your own cave of echoes, sing. Metaphorically, literally, however you interpret it. Use your gift. Speak your truth. Don't let bitterness steal your song. And to those of you who recognize a little bit of Adaeze in yourself, who feel that envy creeping in when someone else shines, stop. Stop right now. Their success is not your failure. Their light doesn't diminish yours. There is enough room for everyone to glow. Pushing others down has never elevated anyone, it only reveals how low you're willing to go. Before you leave this video, I need you to do 3 things. First, hit that subscribe button because the next story is even more powerful. It's about a boy who was mocked for being different but ended up saving his entire village. You won't want to miss it. Second, smash that like button if this story touched your soul. It helps more people find these life-changing stories. Third, and most important, drop a comment below. Tell me, what's your gift? What's your song? What's the thing you do that makes you come alive? Share it, because someone reading the comments needs to be inspired by you. Remember, my family, destiny delayed is not destiny denied. Your time is coming. Your voice will be heard. Your light will shine. Just like Amara's. Until next time, keep your spirit strong, your heart pure, and your song ready. This is Iroko Stories, reminding you that your story is not over, the best chapters are still being written. Now go out there and sing your truth into the world.